What's up, everybody? Welcome again to those that are coming back, and for you new ones too. Let's Talk Marketing with N-Dub podcast, where I'm your host, Nathan Webster. I'm excited to chop it up with you today. Today, for episode 170, I got a special guest, a brand new guest, and I am not going to steal the thunder that he is going to bring and the diamonds that he is about to drop. RT Custer, welcome to the show, my man.
Thanks for having me, Nathan. I appreciate you.
Absolutely, man. Please tell the listeners, because again, I want to get right into this because you're going to talk about some juicy stuff. So in this 20 minutes, please let the listener know who you are and what you do.
Cool. Yeah, well, I appreciate you, and thanks for having me. My name's RT, and I run Vortic Watch Company. It's Vortic watches, and we basically take antique American pocket watches and turn them into one-of-a-kind wristwatches. And that's what we've done for the last 10 years. It's one of the only American watch companies truly made in USA, and that's how we got started, was this simple idea of, could we make, and why we, I mean my business partner Tyler and I, and who I had this idea with when we were back at Penn State studying engineering, could we make a watch actually made in USA? That idea, that conversation was about a decade ago. And fast forward to today, we have 8,000 square feet of manufacturing here in Fort Collins, Colorado, and we make some of the world's best wristwatches right here in America.
Wow. So before we get into your value proposition, your company, you have an amazing back wall that I couldn't wait to talk about. Is that whiskey?
Yeah, I got a bunch of cool stuff. They're all conversation pieces for me. It all started, I don't know if you can see the one in the top right, all the way up there, or my right, but it's a Springbank Scotch that's 21 years old, and I got that in Scotland at the Springbank Distillery, which is one of the only independent Scottish distilleries. Most of them are owned by the huge conglomerates at this point. And I got that when I turned 21 with my dad on like a father and son trip to Scotland to play golf. So
cool.
That's what started it all. And now I've just, every time I leave the country, I try to bring back something cool, whether it's a liquor bottle or just something that I think is interesting. But to me, like, it's the labels. Like, if you look at all the labels, I love the marketing that goes into, you see a retail shelf like this. Why would I pick this sake instead of this one? Why would I pick Blanton's, bourbon instead of this one, when they're all fairly similar priced and it's all basically the same thing? The marketing behind huge liquor companies like that, and luxury companies specifically, obviously I'm in the watch business, is just fascinating to me.
Yeah, I was about to get in that because you said liquor, tobacco, and pharma are some of the, you talk about marketing budgets out the yin yang. So,
Yep.
yeah. So I for the listeners out there, if you haven't gotten a chance to go to our YouTube and check out the video, go to the Instagram and check us out. And it's all in the show notes. So if you want to go and see his collection of, from sake to whiskey to vodka, I think that's on the right, your left. So he has a nice little collection, but I know you're not here to talk about your collection. You want to talk about what you've been up to these last few years. And I'm excited for it because I'm like, this with anyone that comes on the show, there has to be a marketing slant angle. And I thought this was going to be a really interesting story. So I read up on a little bit, but I didn't do too much. So RT, can you first go into what got you into this business?
Yeah. So, starting with the initial concept, manufacturing a wristwatch in the United States. That was our challenge. That was our goal. That was our kind of, North Star of like, okay, how do we do that? Right. And, most watch companies are marketing companies.
Mm-hmm.
They're not actually manufacturing the watches themselves. They're just, they buy the watches from China or Switzerland. They go to some third-party logistics center, and then they run a ton of Facebook ads and sell you a watch. And that's probably 80% of the watch business, is either, online marketing like that or through retail distribution. Then you have manufacturing companies like Rolex. Rolex does it all, right? They manufacture, they have their own distribution, and then they sell through retail stores, but they are known for making a very high quality watch, and they do it all or mostly what's called in-house, like themselves. They're making it themselves. And we went down the rabbit hole of like, okay, if we're going to start a manufacturing company that focuses on watches, we have to find someone to make the movement or the guts of a mechanical wristwatch, the little engine that tells time. And nobody makes those in America, even today. Fast forward 10 years since. Nobody makes them at scale, I should say. There are watchmakers that can, take a piece of metal and manufacture one watch, from start to finish, and then they can sell it for tens of thousands of dollars because it's, all handmade. But if you want to get to scale, the only way we could find an American movement at scale is back 100 years ago. America was the Switzerland of the world. And most people don't know this. But we manufactured in Chicago and Boston and some of the great American cities these amazing pocket watches. So from like 1850 to 1950, over 100 million pocket watches were made in USA, mostly for railroads and people that, needed to know what time it was on the go, like conductors, bankers, attorneys. Like there was a lot of people that needed to know what time it was and couldn't rely on a clock that was stationary. And so everybody, just like we all have, iPhones today, everybody had a pocket watch that needed to know what time it was. And fast forward to today, most pocket watches, even though they're a piece of American history and they were made to such high quality 100 years ago, most pocket watches are thrown away at this point because nobody has any use for them today. And the cases, the outside of them, are gold and silver. And so they're valuable,
Oh,
and so
I didn't know that.
yeah, so and most people don't know that. I usually say like we were the Switzerland of the world, right? We had all these amazing pocket watches and they were made here, but most people don't know that. So anyway, we decided to upcycle those pocket watches and save them from being thrown away. We take the inside of an antique American pocket watch and turn it into a wristwatch, and we make the case, the crown, everything on the outside of the watch here in our facility in Colorado. The industry calls it a pocket watch conversion, but we call it a Vortic, or Vortic. That's our company. And we make one of the only truly American-made wristwatches by saving old pocket watches and converting them into wristwatches.
That's cool. I was gonna Google. I'm like, no, Nathan, don't.
VorticWatches.com. Yep, you can check it out later. But that's that's how we got into it. And real quick, I have one right here.
Because this is really fascinating as you get that, because I know, when you watch not movies, newer movies, more like 30-year-old, 40 people are getting heirlooms being passed down, and they're, it is pocket watches.
Yep. Yeah. And we are the only company in the world that has built a system around taking a family heirloom pocket watch and turning it into a wristwatch so you can actually wear it every day. And this is one example. And this is an example that I use all the time. This is one of my personal watches. This pocket watch, it says GCT on the dial. GCT was Greenwich Civil Time, which was the Central European time zone during World War II. This is what the pocket watch looks like on the back. So that's all the gears and springs that tell time that were inside the original pocket watch. This one was made in 1941 for the U.S. Army Air Corps, what became the Air Force. And this pocket watch was flown on B-17s in World War II. So this is like the ultimate piece of military history. And just as an example, the face of it, the face that you can see that has the numbers on it, the hands, and then all the gears and springs in there, we call it the movement. That's like 75, 80 years old in all of these. And then
RT,
we manufacture everything on the outside.
This is cumbersome work, my man. This is, and it's a gorgeous piece, but the work that you had to do to get it to scale. Well, one, invest in and build the infrastructure, and two, like you said, it's all marketing strategy, and it has to be executed perfectly for you to make money. Why would you go into this business?
Well, that's an age-old question that I think a lot of entrepreneurs ask themselves, like, why did we do this? And I'm so glad we didn't ask ourselves that question very often, Nathan, because I wouldn't say I had a good answer to that for a long time. Now that we've made it in a lot of ways, now that we have the infrastructure, now that we have I have 10 employees here in the building. Now that we're recognized as one of the leading United States-based watch manufacturing companies, I could say it was all worth it.
Okay.
But the time from 10 years ago when we had the idea until now has been a freaking roller coaster, as I'm sure a lot of your guests say, right? It's I started out with marketing in mind because so I grew up on a Christmas tree farm, actually, in Pennsylvania.
What part? Poconos?
Reading, Pennsylvania.
Reading, okay. Oh, the Monopoly. Okay, got it. Yeah.
Yep, like the Reading Railroad. Yep, I was Reading. For those that don't know, is about an hour and a half west of Philadelphia, southeastern PA. And long story short, I was a fourth generation farmer. My great grandfather started that farm. I was basically born to be an entrepreneur. That's. I grew up surrounded by entrepreneurs, surrounded by hard workers. If I wanted to get a new video game when I was a kid, I had to go work. I had to go mow the grass, trim the trees, stuff like that. And so I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. And this was basically, I don't want to say my first idea, but the first idea that really stuck. And in my head, it was a lot easier than it is, because I didn't realize we would need to have the manufacturing side, right? Like, I thought I could find watchmakers to fix up the old pocket watches. I thought I could find someone to make the case and the crown, all the metal parts on the outside. I thought contract manufacturing companies would be able to do that. I thought there would be more standardization between all the old pocket watches. I thought that someone somewhere in the United States would manufacture a movement, like a modern automatic mechanism, like in the Rolexes and Omegas that you see. I thought someone here would make that. And I was wrong about all of those things. And my business partner, Tyler, would say the same thing. It's just like every stone we turned over, we were like, hey, we have to do that here. We have to do that ourselves. No one else does it. And, at a certain point, you've gone too far down the road and it doesn't make sense to turn back. So here we are. But that's the journey. And like I said, now that we're here, now, thankfully and luckily, I feel so grateful. My job is just marketing. My business partner, Tyler, runs the manufacturing and I do all of our marketing. And man, is it fun. It's just, it's so fun to sell something that a lot of times I say doesn't really need to be sold or sells itself, and that's why I do so many of these podcasts, because most people, they're like, if they're just listening, they hear us talking about this pocket watch turned into wristwatch, this piece of American history that we've salvaged and preserved as a wristwatch. They hear like, oh, I have my grandpa's pocket watch in a drawer somewhere. And they Google Vortic watches, and we get business. I don't have salespeople. My website is my salesperson. I'm not a salesperson. I feel like my mom was a preacher, a pastor. And so I feel like I'm just preaching the good news that we make cool watches and people come, right? Like that's my goal in life, is just talk about it as much as possible, because they all have a story and we have a story, and I just love sharing it.
So tell me about then, how do you execute you don't have to give the special recipe or sauce, but what is your marketing strategy? Since this is a lot, as you were saying with podcasting, this is a lot of not entertainment. This is educational. This is informing people, which takes a lot of time, which means your conversion, your click through on your website, being that's your salesperson, that's a long funnel.
Yep. Yeah. So none of it's a secret. I'll tell you everything, Nathan. It's all good. So we have a Shopify website. and I'm lucky to have one of my best friends is an expert Shopify developer. Shout out to Darren.
Nice.
And Darren has built all the different sides of our website and constantly improves it all the time. And we have a beautiful website, and that does work really well as a salesperson. We use Klaviyo for email marketing. And we use a bunch of different plugins to Klaviyo, like this new thing called retention.com, which basically just helps you get more email addresses and helps you get more conversions. But email marketing, Nathan, is 42% of my revenue, and we're a 7-figure business. So email marketing represents hundreds of thousands of dollars to me, and tens of thousands of dollars a month. And right now I have 40,000, probably close to 45,000 people on my email list.
Wow.
And I constantly grow that. And that is my number one focus is I know exactly how much an email address is worth, a good email address, of someone who likes watches, who might be a customer someday. And then I have an amazing series. It's a welcome series or an email journey that welcomes people into the company that I wrote myself. It's all set up and automated in Klaviyo, that welcomes you to the, invites you in to learn more about how watches are made and why American made is important, and the history of what I call the great American watch companies who, manufactured these pocket watches. That is just immensely valuable. And so that's really the funnel is my website's the bottom of the funnel. The middle of the funnel is email marketing. And then I'm constantly testing and trying new ways to get out there and get in front of people and say, hey, come to vorticwatches.com. And if you're interested in learning about how we make watches in America from old pocket watches and how cool this company is, just put your email address in that sign up form and I'll tell you all about it. You don't have to do a thing. It'll just automatically show up in your inbox. And that works clearly. It's very valuable for us, and happy to talk about the other things that we do top of funnel, but that's what the funnel looks like in its basic form.
I love that. So who would be since you said 42%, which is a very high, and sounds like your primary channel, which totally makes sense. People say email is dead. They've been saying that for years. It's not going anywhere.
Yep.
We know.
Email is not dead. I can prove that, and I'm constantly investing in it. Yep. But I hear other people say that, and I just laugh.
Right. Yeah. Email is not dead. So who then is, and it sounds like you do a drip campaign. In this drip campaign, obviously you have some marketing automation working for you, and you probably have a different couple avatars of who you're trying to reach, but who is your ideal client or ideal customer?
Yeah. Ideal customer is an American entrepreneur or an American small business owner. Typically men. Our watches are larger. And it's made from an old pocket watch. This one's the largest one we make is 49 millimeters. The smallest one we make now is 43 millimeters, which is just still slightly larger than like a Rolex. And so I'm typically marketing to men who make 6 figures or who are worth 7 figures. And a lot of those people are like me and you. They're entrepreneurs, they're small business owners. If I could narrow it down even more, it's a human that resonates with the American dream.
Ooh.
When you hear the term American dream, if you think positively about that doesn't mean you're a patriot. That doesn't mean that you're definitely an entrepreneur. That doesn't mean that you're definitely a small business owner. You are working towards something. And when you hit that goal, you want to reward yourself. And obviously you like watches, right? So people like that like wristwatches. Those are my people, because that's what Tyler and I are constantly pursuing, is the American dream. And I feel like, we all are really hard on ourselves as entrepreneurs, right? But like when you sit down and you look backwards at your life and you say, okay, Tyler and I have worked for the last 10 years on this, and we've done things that most people said were stupid, were impossible, that we couldn't do. And I own this building that I'm sitting in, right? This is a commercial building that I own, and we manufacture wristwatches in the United States. I own a home with a wife and 2 kids and 2 dogs, and there's a fence around that home. It's not a white picket fence, but like, this is the American dream. This is what we're working towards. And I feel like that's so cool, because a lot of my customers, they hear about that, they hear the story, they've achieved that too, or they're on their way to achieving that. And they resonate with either what the watch stands for, and that's a piece of American history, or it's made in USA, or what the watch means to them in that they're celebrating something that they've achieved, right? I have a lot of customers that come to me when they have their first child, they bought their first house, they bought their first business, they sold their first business, they hit their huge milestone. They buy a Vortic watch instead of a Rolex because they don't resonate with made in Switzerland, or the Rolex was their father's watch or their grandfather's watch, and they're not, they don't want something that's solid gold on their wrist. They want something made in USA on their wrist, right? So I love having those conversations, but that's really our target demo. And then obviously there's lots of other sides to that, and there's women that buy our product, there's younger people that buy our product that just want to celebrate an earlier milestone. They're given as gifts all the time, college graduation gifts, stuff like that. So there's other kind of offshoots, but the main core demographic is I call them American dreamers.
And with this, because I'm now on your site looking at these watches, and as we wrap up too, you have quite a bit of watches here, and some of these look immensely cool, like hella cool, but they're not cheap. So, for those that, say, like, for example, when I charge for websites, some people drop their mouth, and it's like, well, you can get a different website. You can do your own website, but there's some reasoning why the price is that price. Can you go into a little bit about your pricing and how you source your watches?
Totally. Yeah. So for those that aren't on the website, currently a Vortic watch, what we call the American Artisan Series, or our pocket watches turned into wrist watches, are priced between $2,500 and $12,000 a piece. They're all individually priced because they are one of a kind. Like those watches you see on the website, Nathan, be like the Springfield 576 or whatever. That is the only watch of its kind. If you buy that watch, you and only you will ever have that watch. It is one of a kind. And that is why they're priced individually. And that's why they're thousands of dollars, is because we made that watch for you. And it is a piece of art that is unique, that you and only you will ever have. And that is very rare in the industry. Typically, one-of-a-kind watches like that made in Switzerland are tens of thousands of dollars, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I usually say we're somewhere between a Timex and a Rolex, right? Because Rolexes are more expensive than us, and Timexes are way cheaper than us. And you can buy either of those, or you can buy a Vortic watch that's made in USA. It just depends on what you want to say with that purchase. To answer your other question, we buy out estate auctions. Anytime a pawn shop or a jewelry store goes out of business, they typically have a whole bunch of pocket watches in the back they forgot about. And Tyler and I here at Vortic Watch Company are one of the only places in the world that will buy hundreds of pocket watches at a time in like an estate closeout sale. And we sort through them, we pick the best ones, we restore them, and we turn them into wristwatches. And gosh, is it, again, just a blessing. It's so much fun. The other thing I'll say is we only make a few hundred watches a year. And so it's a very limited production. If you buy a Vortic watch, you join less than 2,000 total humans that own one. And what's really cool, Nathan, is from a marketing standpoint, we have a huge repeat customer rate. So I've sold about 2,500 watches in the life of the company, and my customer list is less than 1,700. So a lot of those people have 2, 3, 4 of our watches, which again, it's just so validating to like have that kind of repeat purchase. And we have relationships with some of these people because they're like, they buy a watch every 12 months or so.
Right.
So yeah, so that's how I answer that question. And then the final answer to that question, if somebody, to your point, if somebody says like, it's a lot, but I want an American made watch, I want something built in Colorado that's really cool. September 26th, we're going live on Kickstarter with a new company, a sister brand called Colorado Watch Company. And those watches will start at $995. And the Kickstarter price will be better than that. It'll be hundreds better than that. So if you want to invest in an American made watch, but $3,000 isn't in the budget, just give me a few weeks.
Okay. Well, it looks like you got to share, which I was going to say, this is where please share, how can people reach out to you if they want to learn more or buy a watch? I know you said it, but say it again for the listeners that may want to make that special purchase.
Totally. So thank you again, Nathan. It's vorticwatches.com, VORTIC watches.com. And it will be coloradowatches.com when we launch Colorado Watch Company. And if you forget any of that, SEO is another good form of marketing. Just Google Colorado Watch Company. We are the only Colorado watch company, and that's where they're made, is they're built in Colorado. So just Google Colorado Watch Company, Vortic Watch Company, or our new, literally, Colorado Watch Company will come up for you. And you can check us out. And if you want to reach out to me, if you want to chat with me, I love talking to other entrepreneurs, especially about email marketing and PR and things like this. My email address is rt@vorticwatches.com, and you can find me RT Custer on Instagram or LinkedIn. Love to have this conversation with any of you.
Man, I absolutely love it. I need to have you back on the show and just talk about how you have failed to your success, because to be unique, one of a kind, sounds extremely cool, but it's also extremely expensive. So I know that this was not an easy journey, but I don't want to end on that. I want to end on congratulations, man, for your 7-figure business, your 10 employee company, owning the company, owning your house with your family. This is not easy. And understanding your industry was marketing is not easy because it never sleeps. It does not stop. So you have learned how to continue to feed the beast to where you are comfortable, but there's no such thing as that. And I'm happy to hear that you are growing and scaling, because that's the only way I've learned the greats do it.
Yep. Hey, if it wasn't fun, we'd stop. But it's still fun every day. And there's definitely a ratio of fun to money. And we're kind of in the middle there somewhere. We're figuring it out still. But the fun part is always there. Otherwise, we totally wouldn't do this. So I appreciate you, Nathan. This was fun. And I'd love to come back on anytime, and happy to talk about all the downs and all the things that I've learned from failing. You have to fail to win. So shoot me an email. Let's do it. Let's dive deep.
All right. Well, RT, I appreciate you just being you, my man. That's you being you. I appreciate that, because you're definitely blessing a lot of people with your craft, oh my gosh, your passion behind it. I love it, especially when I hear what like Rolexes, or if there's a waiting list. It's a big deal to have not an or an Apple Watch, a real watch. So this is very educational, and I love your passion around it. So I'm glad you came on the show today. Thank you.
I'm so glad I was here. Thanks for having me, Nathan.
Absolutely. So for all my first-time listeners, welcome. I hope that was enjoyable, educational, and hopefully applicable to whatever you're doing today. Please don't stop. There is light at the end of the tunnel. There's not a train. It's just you got to keep going. And man, RT story of you doing this was amazing. For my worldwide listeners, this is what we do, baby. So if you love the show, if you continue to download it, please leave a review, leave a comment, share it. And until next time, wishing you nothing but the best. So dream big and Godspeed.